I still remember the sharp scent of vanilla and buttercream hanging in the air that morning. My mother stood at the kitchen counter, placing red velvet cupcakes onto a polished silver-tiered tray. Each one was frosted with clinical precision, as if the event we were preparing for were a state dinner rather than a family celebration. She didn't even look at me when she said it. "She deserves it more, honey," she murmured, aligning a cupcake that was already perfectly centered. My heart didn't break. Not at first, it just slowed. "Chloe's always been more dedicated to her studies. You've always had other interests." The sentence landed like a slap, even though her voice was calm, almost affectionate. I was still in my scrubs from the night shift. My shoes smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion. And in my hands, I held my freshly framed medical school diploma, my name etched in gold, the corners still sharp. I cleared my throat. "We both graduated with honors," I said evenly. "Same GPA, same chords, same commencement ceremony." Mom finally turned to look at me, her expression tired and full of that familiar disappointment she wore so often around me, like I was always a puzzle missing its corner pieces. "Rachel," she sighed, "Chloe doesn't have a wealthy mentor like Dr. Hayes guiding her. She's starting from scratch. You've always had certain advantages." I nearly laughed out loud. "Advantages, Dr.?" Camilla Hayes had a reputation for being terrifyingly brilliant, unapproachable, and allergic to praise. She didn't guide anyone unless they bled for the opportunity. I had spent 2 years in her lab, getting my proposals rejected, reworking them from scratch, pulling 80-hour weeks, and once passing out from dehydration during a data analysis sprint. Chloe, on the other hand, had spent spring break skiing in Aspen. "Right," I said quietly. "Advantage." I took a step back. "So I'm being punished for creating my own opportunities?" Before she could answer, Dad walked in, already halfway through buttoning his shirt. He took in the tension like a passing breeze and did what he always did, wrapped a casual arm around Mom's shoulders and tried to balance the room. "No one's punishing you, Rach," he said lightly. "We're just trying to be practical. Chloe needs more help than you do." Mom nodded. "You've always been more resourceful." There it was again. That word, resourceful. It sounded like a compliment when you said it fast enough. But I knew what it meant. It meant, we weren't there for you. But look how well you turned out anyway. It meant, we didn't invest in you, but you figured it out, so what are you complaining about? It meant they skipped my science fair victories, but flew cross-country for Chloe's volleyball semifinals. It meant she got a Lexus for her 21st birthday, and I got a $25 gas station gift card, just to be practical. And it meant I never got to be the one they worried about. Tomorrow was Chloe's debt-free doctor celebration party. Their words, not mine. An embossed invitation had arrived weeks ago, glossy and heavy in my hands, like an insult printed in Helvetica. Celebrating Dr. Chloe Monroe, a debt-free future in medicine. They'd rented the Marston Room, a glass rooftop event space overlooking the Charles River, catering, open bar, string quartet. There wasn't a single mention of me, not even a "we're proud of both our daughters." It was as if I'd never walked across that graduation stage at all. "I need to head out," I said, gripping my diploma tighter. "You'll still be at the party, right?" Mom asked, her tone suddenly light. "Chloe's really looking forward to seeing you there." Of course she was. They needed me there, not as Rachel, the doctor, but Rachel, the backdrop. Rachel, the sister who claps quietly in the corner while the spotlight burns gold on Chloe. I forced a smile. "I'll be there." That night, I sat in my car in the hospital garage, the sounds of ambulance sirens echoing through the concrete. I was about to head into a double shift when my phone buzzed. It was from Dr. Hayes. "Dr. Hayes, need to speak urgently, Mayo Fellowship. Call when free. Big news." My heart flipped. The Mayo Fellowship, the most competitive surgical innovation fellowship in the country. Only one student was selected each year. I had applied but never allowed myself to hope. I called her from the stairwell between the ER and pediatrics, my fingers trembling as I held the phone. She answered on the first ring. "You got it," she said. Her voice was sharp, certain, like she didn't need to confirm twice. I blinked, gripping the railing. The Mayo? They voted unanimously. Your work on dual-modality surgical protocols? It's game-changing. You leave for Rochester in July. I almost sat down on the stairwell floor. Dr. Hayes, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, she said. You earned this, every drop of it. There was a pause. Your parents invited me to Chloe's party. They think I'm just your lab supervisor. I know. I'd like to make the announcement there, she said carefully. But only if you're ready. I stared at the wall. Concrete. Cold. I don't want to take Chloe's spotlight. You're not taking anything, she said. You're reclaiming what's already yours. Later that night, 2 texts came in. First from Chloe. Chloe. Mom's going overboard. I told her to tone it down. Wish she celebrated both of us. See you tomorrow? I stared at the message, frozen. It was the first time she'd ever hinted at the imbalance. Then another message buzzed through. Mom, don't forget, business casual. Please let Chloe have her moment. This is important to her. The contrast hit me like a punch. Maybe Chloe saw more than I'd thought. Maybe Mom saw less than she ever would. The next day, I stood in front of the Marston room in my best wrap dress and heels that bit into my skin like guilt. Through the glass, I saw it all. The string quartet, the banner, the tower of champagne flutes. Congratulations, Dr. Chloe Monroe! Just her name, just her victory, not even a shared Monroe sisters motif. I walked in. People nodded politely. A cousin waved awkwardly. My aunts and uncles acted like I was the +1 to a gala I didn't quite belong at. Then I saw Chloe. She crossed the room like a flash of emerald, hugging me with surprising force. You made it, she said. Thank God. Aunt Karen already asked if I'm secretly engaged. You're my escape hatch. I laughed, even though it hurt. Tell her I'm married to science. I told her you were married to a neurosurgeon. Hope that's okay. Depends on how rich he is. She smiled, linking her arm through mine. This whole thing? Insane. Mom invited half the medical board. Dean Wilson is here. You're the golden girl, I said, my tone teasing but bitter beneath. I didn't ask to be. And for a moment, just a moment, I believed her. Then Mom appeared. Chloe, sweetheart, Dr. Henderson just arrived. Chief of surgery at Boston Mercy. Come say hello. She turned to me, cool as ever. Rachel, can you check with catering? Your cousin Lily says the gluten-free options are missing. Chloe got the chief of surgery. I got the hors d'oeuvres. Across the room, Dr. Hayes had arrived. Crimson suit, silent power. She nodded at me from the bar. You ready? She asked. I didn't know if I was, but I nodded anyway. Because tonight, finally, wasn't just about Chloe. It was about being seen. The morning after the party invitation arrived, I found myself still staring at the embossed envelope like it was a legal summons, celebrating Dr. Chloe Monroe, debt-free graduate, future of medicine. No mention of me. Not even a vague "our daughters." Just one name, one face, one future. I didn't cry. Not at first. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged into the Mayo Clinic Fellowship portal, and reread the email that had dropped into my inbox the night before like a thunderbolt. Dear Dr. Monroe, on behalf of the Mayo Surgical Innovation Selection Committee, we are thrilled to offer you the 2025 Fellowship in Surgical Neurotechnology. I read it twice. Then again, I scrolled through the details like I wasn't the one it was written for. 6-figure stipend. Full loan forgiveness, housing allowance, private lab, national recognition. It was everything I had fought for, bled for, sacrificed for. It wasn't given to me by family favor or money. It was earned. Late nights in the lab, skipped birthdays, tears shed in stairwells after surgeries that went sideways. I should have been ecstatic. But all I could think about was standing next to Chloe on that rooftop terrace tomorrow night, watching her bask in a spotlight I wasn't even allowed to share. Later that morning, I met with Dr. Hayes in her office. She stood near the floor-to-ceiling window, sipping coffee from a heavy white mug with the words Mayo Alumni etched in gold. Rachel, she said as I stepped inside. Sit. We've got a lot to discuss. She didn't waste time. She never did. First of all, Congratulations again. You were their top choice. By a landslide. I blinked. You're sure? They said your dual modality approach in neurorecovery was the most original they've seen in a decade. They called it disruptive in the best way. Their words. I stared at the floor, stunned. I've never been anyone's top choice before. Dr. Hayes leaned forward slightly. Well, now you are, and you need to start getting used to that. She handed me a printed version of the official announcement. Dr. Rachel Monroe, Mayo Surgical Innovation Fellow, Class of 2025. My fingers trembled as I held it. They'll be issuing a press release next week, she continued. But I'd like to announce it sooner. Tomorrow night, at Chloe's party. I looked up, startled. At her party? You want to do it there? Why not? She said calmly. Your parents invited me. They don't even know we're working this closely together. It'll be a surprise. I shook my head slowly. I don't want to ruin her moment. Dr. Hayes raised an eyebrow. Rachel, this isn't about ruining anything. This is about reclaiming space. You've been denied. You didn't crash her party. They invited me. They chose to ignore you. That's on them. I didn't respond. The thought of standing on that rooftop, having my success shared like a footnote, made me nauseous. Look, she said more gently, you've spent your entire life stepping aside for people who never even noticed. This time let them see. That night I got 2 messages. One from Chloe. Chloe, Mom's gone full event planner. Custom cake, string quartet, guest list with half the hospital board. I told her it's too much. Honestly, I wish it were for both of us. We did this together. And then, a minute later, from Mom. Mom, please remember business casual. And let Chloe have her moment. She's worked hard. This party means the world to her. The contrast nearly broke me. Maybe Chloe did see the cracks. Maybe Mom only saw what she wanted. The next morning, I walked into the residence lounge and found Chloe pouring coffee, humming something upbeat. Big night coming, I said. She rolled her eyes. Don't remind me. If one more florist calls me about peonies, I'm going to fake my own death. I smiled, despite myself. You could have said no. You know Mom, she said. Once she's in party mode, there's no stopping her. She paused, then added softly, I wish she were doing this for both of us. That hit harder than I expected. You mean that? I asked. She nodded. Of course, we both earned those diplomas. But Mom acts like mine came with a crown and yours came with an asterisk. I looked at her, really looked at her. For once, Chloe didn't look like the golden child. She looked tired, trapped, maybe even guilty. After lunch, Dr. Hayes called me to her office again. Still nervous? She asked. Terrified. She smiled. Good. That means you care. She placed a manila folder in front of me. Inside was a draft of her speech. Clean, bold, no fluff. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to announce that Dr. Rachel Monroe has been selected for the Mayo Clinic's most prestigious fellowship out of thousands of applicants nationwide. My heart clenched reading it. Once this goes public, she said, you won't be invisible anymore. You'll be watched, critiqued, admired. Are you ready for that? I swallowed hard. Yes. Good, she said, because once I start talking tomorrow night, there's no going back. The next 24 hours moved like a slow hurricane. I laid out my navy blue dress, repressed it twice, checked my notes, packed backup mascara, braced myself for a storm I wasn't sure I wanted to weather. When the sun set, I stood outside the Marston room, watching guests file in through gold-trimmed doors. Through the glass, I saw Chloe laughing with our father, Mom waving to someone from the hospital board, tables covered in champagne flutes and gold foil programs. I looked up. Above the archway was a massive white banner with embossed letters. Congratulations, Dr. Chloe Monroe, debt-free, dedicated, destined. 3 Ds, no R, no Rachel, no mention of me. I took a deep breath and walked in. The moment I entered, it was clear. I wasn't a guest of honor. I was a placeholder. People nodded politely. A few offered vague compliments like, your sister must be so proud of you, too. Too? As in addition to Chloe? I kept smiling, kept sipping champagne, kept waiting. Then I saw Dr. Hayes. She stood near the back of the room, wearing her signature red suit like armor. She raised her glass slightly in my direction. "You ready?" she mouthed. I didn't know, but I nodded anyway. Because ready or not, my name was finally about to be said out loud. There's a moment right before your life changes. It's not loud, it's not cinematic, it's quiet. Still, like that second before lightning touches ground. As I stood at the entrance of the Marston room, the rooftop terrace glowing under soft golden lights, I knew I was walking straight into that moment. The string quartet was playing something elegant. There were white roses in glass vases on every table, and servers in black vests weaving between guests with trays of Prosecco. At the center of it all stood the banner. "Congratulations, Dr. Chloe Monroe, debt-free, dedicated, destined." The 3 Ds, all hers. I wasn't even a footnote. I stepped onto the terrace, trying to ignore the way the noise dipped for half a second when I entered. People glanced, smiled, whispered. They recognized me, of course, as Chloe's sister. Not as a doctor, not as a fellowship recipient, just the other Monroe twin, the lesser-known one. Chloe spotted me instantly and waved me over. She looked stunning in an emerald dress, her hair styled perfectly into soft curls. "You made it," she said, pulling me into a hug. "God, I'm so glad you're here. I've been cornered by Aunt Linda twice already. I needed a buffer." "Happy to be your human shield," I said dryly. She laughed, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew something was off. Knew this whole evening was excessive, even for Mom. "I didn't want any of this, you know," she whispered. "I just wanted dinner. Something simple. But Mom said this was important, that it was what I deserved." I didn't reply, because I had something to say, but not yet. Not until they were all listening. Dinner began shortly after sunset. I was seated at table 7, between our cousin Lily and a colleague of Dad's I'd met once at a Christmas party. Chloe, of course, was at the head table. With our parents, with Dr. Emily Wu, Chief of Surgery at Boston Mercy, and with Dean Harold Lane from our med school, who'd once called my neurotrauma proposal ambitious but unlikely. Chloe had never worked with him directly, but he was here, smiling at her like she was his legacy. Halfway through the entree, Dad stood and tapped his glass. The chatter stopped. "I'd like to say a few words," he began, voice polished like a political speech. "Tonight, we celebrate someone truly special, our daughter, Dr. Chloe Monroe." Applause, polite and expected. "Medical school is a grueling path," he continued, but Chloe faced it with courage, compassion, and clarity of purpose. The 3 C's now. Was this a branding campaign? Mom stood next, holding her champagne. "We've always believed in investing in Chloe's future," she said, "because we saw her potential early. From her childhood science fair trophies to her med school rotations, she's always stood out." My stomach twisted. There it was. Clear, public, unequivocal. They weren't just proud of Chloe. They were only proud of Chloe. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. And then something unexpected happened. Chloe stood up. She took the mic from Dad, her expression unreadable. She glanced at the guests, then at me. "Thank you, Mom and Dad," she began. "And thank you to everyone here. I'm honored, truly." A pause. "But I need to be honest tonight." Murmurs rippled across the tables. "This celebration feels incomplete." My father stiffened. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Because there's someone missing from this story, someone who deserves just as much applause, just as much recognition." She turned fully toward me. "My sister, Rachel Monroe." Every head turned. "She's not just my sister, she's my role model. We graduated with the same GPA, the same honors, the same hours spent studying under fluorescent lights, but she did it without the support I had, without the funding, without the spotlight." I could feel heat rising in my throat. I was frozen. She earned a place in one of the most competitive surgical research fellowships in the country, and she did it all while being overlooked, underestimated, and frankly, dismissed. Silence. Total. No violin music. No chatter. Just Chloe, standing in her emerald dress, holding the room hostage with truth. "And I'm done letting that happen," she said. Then she handed the mic to Dr. Hayes. Dr. Hayes stepped forward slowly, heels clicking against the polished tile. The room had shifted. The power had shifted. "My name is Dr. Camilla Hayes," she said, "and I have the honor of mentoring Dr. Rachel Monroe at Mass General." A pause. Sharp intake of breath from a table nearby. "And I'm here to announce that she has been awarded the Mayo Surgical Innovation Fellowship, the highest surgical research fellowship in the country, selected unanimously, over thousands of applicants." Gasps. A soft murmur. "She's a pioneer in neurosurgical integration. Her work on combining microsurgical technique with neuropharmacological support systems is already being cited in national journals." Eyes were now on me. Not Chloe, not the banner. Me. "She will be joining the Mayo Clinic as their 2025 lead fellow," Dr. Hayes said with pride. "And she earned it through nothing but brilliance, discipline, and unrelenting grit." Applause. Real applause. This wasn't polite. This was reverent. For once I was the story. Dr. Emily Wu stood next. "I had no idea you were the candidate from Boston," she said, looking directly at me. "We've been reviewing your research. I'd love to speak with you after." Dad looked stunned. Mom looked exposed. Finally, Dad tried to speak. "Rachel, why didn't you tell us?" I smiled. Cool. Steady. "You never asked." After the dinner ended, people kept coming up to me. Students, professors, even hospital executives. They wanted to hear about my fellowship, my papers, my vision. They said things like, "You were always the quiet one, but not anymore." "Chloe's lucky to have you as a sister." "Why didn't your parents mention you in the speeches?" Good question. Later, Chloe found me by the dessert table. "I'm sorry it took me so long," she said, "to speak up." I shook my head. "You did it when it mattered." We looked across the room. Mom was sitting with Aunt Karen, her smile tight. Dad stood alone, staring out at the city skyline like he didn't recognize the landscape anymore. "I think they're starting to realize the narrative is changing," Chloe said. "Good," I said, "because I'm not shrinking anymore." She clinked her glass against mine. "To taking up space." The morning after the rooftop party was oddly quiet. Cambridge moved at its usual pace. Commuters hustling down Mass Ave, cafe lines curling out the door, delivery trucks blaring horns. But inside my apartment, the silence was heavy, sacred, almost reverent. I was still in the same navy blue wrap dress from the night before, half zipped down, heels kicked off by the couch, mascara smudged under tired eyes. On the kitchen table sat the Mayo Fellowship letter, and next to it, the party program, complete with gold-embossed text reading, "Celebrating Dr. Chloe Monroe, Future of Medicine." I should have tossed it. Instead, I stared at it like a relic of another life, the one where I smiled through erasure, where I blended into the backdrop of my sister's spotlight. That life was over. My phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, calls, emails. From professors, "Dr. Monroe, just heard the Mayo news. Stellar work. We're thrilled for you." From students I'd never spoken to, "You were in our anatomy class? I had no idea you were such a badass." From hospital staff who'd ignored me for years, "So proud to say I trained beside you. Respect." Validation from strangers, and silence from the ones who mattered most. At 11:17 a.m., a knock echoed at my door. Not a text, not a call, a real knock. I opened it to find Mom and Dad, standing there like guests who'd arrived too early to a dinner party they weren't invited to. Dad held a bottle of sparkling cider. Mom clutched 2 navy blue gift bags, the same bags they gave Chloe on her birthday. "We thought we'd stop by," Mom said with a brittle smile. "Congratulations, sweetie, truly." I didn't move, didn't smile, just opened the door wider. They walked in slowly, scanning the apartment as if seeing it for the first time. "So this is where the magic happens," Dad joked, gesturing to my kitchen table stacked with medical journals. I said nothing. The awkwardness festered like a wound. "We wanted to give you this," Mom said, setting a bag on the counter. Inside, a rose gold watch, identical to the one they'd given Chloe for her residency match. I stared at it, silent. "Figured you should have one too," Dad added. 2, as in second, as in retroactive equality. You think this is about stuff? I asked softly. Mom flinched. It's not the watch, I said. It's the years. The missed lectures, the ignored awards, the fact that you never once asked how I was paying for school. You just assumed I'd figure it out. You always did, Dad said quickly. You've always been resourceful. That word again. I exhaled sharply. That's not a compliment. That's what you say when you're not willing to show up for someone. Mom's eyes watered. We didn't know you felt this way, she whispered. Yes, you did, I replied. You just didn't want to deal with what it meant. The room was thick with the stench of unspoken guilt. Then Dad said, we were just trying to give Chloe what she needed. She struggled more, emotionally. And I didn't struggle? I asked. I just did it quietly so it didn't count? Mom sank onto the edge of the couch. We got it wrong, she said finally. We saw what was easier to celebrate, and we missed what was real. Silence. You missed me, I said. She nodded. We did. Later that evening, Chloe came by. No knock, just a smoothie in one hand and a wrinkled hoodie over her scrubs. I brought carbs and sugar, she said. Figured you were in a crash phase. I'm fine, I lied. She tossed the smoothie at me. You're not, and that's okay. We sat on the couch, the silence more comfortable this time. They're spiraling, she said. Mom cried for an hour this morning. Dad keeps rewriting history, telling everyone he always knew you were going to be something big. I smirked. Classic. They're not bad people, she said. No, I agreed. Just deeply conditioned to love out loud only when it looks like what they imagined. She looked down at her hands. I let it happen. I let them frame me as the one who needed support, and I liked the attention. I won't lie. You were a kid, Chloe, I said. Still, I didn't question it, not until last night. We paused. I'm sorry, she said quietly, for every time I accepted their praise, knowing you were standing right there. I didn't say, it's okay, because it wasn't, but I said thank you. Over the next few days, the Monroe family did what it did best, spin narratives. Aunt Karen texted me a link to a Facebook post from Mom. Our girls are both incredible. Chloe, the heart, Rachel, the brain. What a duo. Gross. Dad sent me a forwarded email from Dean Lane titled, Your Daughter's Fellowship, Alumni Magazine Feature. Look what I helped launch, he wrote in the caption. I deleted it. They weren't ready to sit in discomfort. Not yet. But they were beginning to feel it. That was something. I started packing for Rochester. Boxes of research binders, white coats, coffee mugs that said Future Surgeon, gifted by Chloe, ironically. I labeled each one meticulously. Every item felt like a victory, not just because I earned the fellowship, but because it had finally been acknowledged, loudly, clearly, unmistakably. 3 nights before my flight, I stood on my balcony with Chloe. We sipped cider and stared at the skyline, 2 sisters side by side, without the usual static between us. You scared? She asked. No, I said. For the first time, I'm not. She nudged me. You're going to change everything over there, you know that? I hope so, I said. You will. We clinked glasses. To not needing the spotlight, she said. But deserving it, I finished. The next morning, a final text came from Mom. Safe travels, Rachel. We're proud of you. Truly. Call when you land. I didn't reply, but I saved it. Small steps. It was 5:47 a.m. when the movers knocked on my door. 3 men in gray uniforms, bleary-eyed, hauling dollies and tape guns and clipboards. One of them glanced around my apartment and gave a low whistle. You a doctor or a librarian? He joked, eyeing the mountain of boxes labeled research, books, surgical texts, don't drop. Both, kind of, I replied, smiling as I opened the door wider. Boxes were stacked everywhere, against walls, beneath windows, on top of bookshelves. The only clear surface left was the kitchen table, where my Mayo Fellowship welcome packet lay open next to a half-drunk cup of tea. It was real now. I was leaving Boston. Not for a vacation, not to figure things out, but to step fully into a future I had built alone, with hands that had gone blistered and unnoticed for far too long. Rochester, Minnesota wasn't flashy, no sweeping skylines or buzzing subways, but it felt clean, calm, like a fresh page. My new apartment was a modest third-floor walk-up near the Mayo campus, hardwood floors, tall windows, a kitchen so small I could touch both walls at once. But it was mine. No leftover expectations. No framed photos of Chloe on every surface. No condescending reminders that I was the strong one who could handle things. Just space and silence and possibility. Orientation at the Mayo Clinic felt like stepping into a sci-fi film. Everything was sleek, futuristic, almost intimidating. My ID badge read, Dr. Rachel Monroe, Surgical Innovation Fellow. I kept reading it over and over, as if the letters might rearrange themselves into someone else's name when I wasn't looking. But they never did. For the first time, I wasn't an assistant, a background twin, or the one professors forgot. I was the name. Day one in the lab, my new supervisor, Dr. Ellen Park, gave me a tour. "You'll have your own team," she said, tapping her tablet. 3 residents, 1 research assistant, and full grant autonomy for Phase 1 development. "Wait, I get to lead the team?" I asked. She paused, confused. "Rachel, this is your fellowship. You're not here to assist. You're here to innovate." I blinked. It shouldn't have felt revolutionary, but it did. Back in Boston, my parents were spinning their narrative. According to Aunt Sharon, who couldn't keep a secret to save her life, Mom had sent out an email blast to our extended family. "Rachel's moving to Minnesota. Big opportunity. Mayo Clinic. We're just so proud." Dad, meanwhile, had apparently printed out the fellowship announcement and laminated it. I wasn't mad. I wasn't impressed either. It was damage control, not redemption. But Chloe? She called every other day. No drama. No performance. Just her. "Hey, how's the lab? Send me a pic of your office. I miss your weird tea drawer. Did you figure out the thermostat yet? Minnesota is no joke." Each call was a little bridge, and we were crossing it slowly, together. One Saturday afternoon, I walked into my new favorite cafe, laptop in one hand, research binder in the other. The barista, a redhead named Kara with a sleeve tattoo of anatomical hearts, handed me a latte before I even ordered. "Congrats again," she said, nodding to the Mayo badge clipped to my coat. "Heard from Mike you're the big deal fellow everyone's talking about." I raised an eyebrow. "Mike?" "The orthopedic resident. Real shy, but obsessed with surgical tech. Said your presentation last week blew his mind." I laughed. Genuinely. I was someone's presentation that blew their mind. How about that? 2 weeks in, Dr. Park asked me to give a guest lecture. "Keep it informal," she said, "but don't hold back. These second years need to see what excellence looks like." No pressure. I spent 3 nights perfecting my slides, 4 hours writing my opening, changed my outfit twice the morning of. When I walked into the lecture hall, 70 sets of eyes turned toward me. Some bored, some skeptical, some expectant. I cleared my throat. "My name is Dr. Rachel Monroe. I'm the current Surgical Innovation Fellow here at Mayo, and I used to believe that I had to work twice as hard to earn half the attention." Silence. Then curiosity. I continued. "But now I know. Visibility isn't a reward, it's a right." They leaned in. After the lecture, a girl named Maya came up. "Hi, I'm sorry, can I just say, your talk? That was... wow, I feel like you told my whole story." "Thank you," I said. "That means more than you know." She smiled, then hesitated. Can I ask something kind of personal?" "Sure." "How did you know? That you deserve to be seen?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I hadn't known. I had decided, and that was even more powerful. A few nights later, Chloe visited. She stepped into the apartment, took one look around, and grinned. "This place is so... you." "I hope that's a compliment," she laughed. "Definitely. It smells like highlighters and ambition." We cooked dinner, well, microwaved it, and sat on the floor, legs crossed, wine glasses in hand. She grew quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking," she said. About Mom, about Dad, about all of it. I waited. I think I let their attention define me for too long. And now that it's shifted, I don't know who I am without it. That's okay, I said. Maybe now you get to figure that out for you. Not for them. She looked up, eyes glassy. Thank you for not throwing it in my face. I wanted to, I admitted. She laughed through a sniffle. I would have deserved it. Before she left, we stood on the balcony, arms draped over the rail, watching the sleepy Minnesota skyline. Do you think we'll always be undoing this? She asked. The favoritism, the pressure, the competition. Maybe, I said, but now we're undoing it together. She squeezed my hand. The next morning I found an envelope under my door. No address, no signature. Inside, a photo. One I'd never seen. Me and Chloe at 8 years old, side by side in matching lab coats, holding beakers filled with colored water, smiling. On the back, someone had written in Mom's handwriting, "You were always the scientist." I sat down on the floor, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. Weeks passed, then months. I published my first solo paper, got invited to speak at a national conference, was offered an early tenure-track position at a teaching hospital. Doors flew open. Not because someone held them, but because I built the key. One night, I hosted my first dinner party in Rochester. Just 4 people, Chloe, Maya, Dr. Park, and me. We laughed, ate too much pasta, told stories that had nothing to do with trauma or twin rivalry or who got what. It was ordinary and perfect. After everyone left, I stood at the sink, washing wine glasses, watching my reflection in the window. And for the first time ever, I saw it. A woman who didn't need the spotlight to feel worthy, but who would never let herself be hidden again.